Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. We are so excited to have you here with us as we do our Housing is a Human Right series. Our first one last week was an overview with many programs, and now the next week's going forward, we're going to be focusing in on one program at a time. And we're very excited to have Susan Soleil with the Charter for Compassion. I didn't even start there. So I'll start and I'll go back. We're very excited to have with us Amber, who is with Community First Village, and Felipe and I are kind of co-hosting the series. So really excited to be here. I'm gonna share before I turn the time over to Amber. And Felipe, do you want to say anything before we jump in? And
No, I mean, thank you all for participating here, for joining us on this webinar. We're really excited to be able to showcase incredible work by incredible organizations that are addressing the housing and homelessness crisis in their own communities, which is, the whole purpose of this webinar series is for us to hopefully get you inspired to either follow a similar project like this and start it in your community, or maybe, start building your connections so that you can see that happening in your own cities. So I'm pretty excited to be able to present Amber today with Community First for sure.
Thank you. Okay, so now I think I've said excited about 6 times and Felipe 4 times. So it kind of shares and wraps up our energy and how we're feeling today. I will share briefly before I turn a bunch of time over to Amber that I had the opportunity to go to Community First Village in February of 2020. They were doing a leadership training. It was fabulous. I got to tour it. I think I was there for 3 days or 4 days, stayed in the community inn, met Amber, was in their facility, learned a ton, got to hang out with the neighbors and eat with it was just marvelous. It really expanded my head, all of the ideas that I had, and it expanded my heart. And so with that, I actually want to turn the time now over to Amber and hear from you about Community First, because it is foundational. It is the program that many other organizations have come to you to learn about, and then have taken that model and implemented it in different ways around the country and probably around the world. Amber, to you.
Thank you so much, Susan and Felipe, for having me. I am so honored to be part of this series with Charter for Compassion. I am Amber Fogarty. I'm the president of Mobile Loaves and Fishes in Austin, Texas, and we are the nonprofit that created Community First Village. And we are going to dive deep today, and I'm going to show you a lot of beautiful pictures and just introduce you to this community that we love so much. First, I want to just start by saying how grateful I am to be part of this Charter for Compassion movement. What we do at Community First Village is all about compassion. It is all about love for our neighbors who have experienced homelessness. It's all about connecting human to human, heart to heart. And so there's so much alignment between Charter for Compassion and the vision and mission of Mobile Loaves and Fishes and the work that we've been doing for the last 23 and a half years here in Austin, Texas. So before I share my screen and get started with the presentation, I'll just say that I'm coming to you live from Austin, Texas on a beautiful and sunny August day where our temperature will surely be over 100 degrees. And we just wrapped up the hottest July on record. We had the hottest June on record in Austin, Texas, and we had the hottest May on record in Austin, Texas. So we have had many brutal days. We've exceeded now 50 days of 100+ degree temperatures in Austin, Texas. So as you can imagine, the life for our neighbors who experience homelessness in our community is particularly difficult this time of year, and they are always on our hearts. And the reason that we do the work that we do is to be able to lift them off the streets into a permanent home, into a supportive community, into a place where they can be fully and wholly known and fully and wholly loved. And really where we can reconnect our neighbors who have experienced homelessness to themselves, to their families, and to the greater community. That is the work that we do and what we are all about. And so I'm going to get us started. I'm going to share my screen so that we can dive in to this presentation and really take you through what Community First Village is all about. So I'm going to start with an overview of the core philosophies of Mobile Loaves and Fishes, just so that you have a foundation to understand why did we create Community First Village? What have we been doing with our neighbors who have experienced homelessness for the last 23 and a half years? So our foundational belief at Mobile Loaves and Fishes is that the single greatest cause of homelessness is the profound, catastrophic loss of family. Everything that we do comes from that belief. And we really have learned this over the course of the last 23 and a half years doing this work in Austin, Texas, and developing deep and committed and enduring relationships with our neighbors who have experienced homelessness. And when we think about homelessness and when we really understand it, there are so many conversations that I have every day. And every time I speak about homelessness, I always ask people, what do you think causes homelessness? And there are a number of things that come up repeatedly. The top two would be mental health and addiction. And the reality is that we have mental health struggles in all of our families. We have addiction struggles in all of our families, but homelessness is not the result for everyone that experiences those particular issues. When you have a strong and supportive family system, when you have community around you, when you have that safety net, mental illness and addiction don't typically result in homelessness. In fact, in Austin, Texas, it's only 0.06% of our Austin population that experiences homelessness. It's a very small percentage of our overall population. And in our experience working with our neighbors over all of these years, we have heard consistently these heart-wrenching stories about the profound catastrophic loss of family and community that they have experienced. Many of our neighbors have experienced trauma that is beyond our human comprehension. They've experienced abuse and neglect, and really just unbelievably heartbreaking circumstances in their lives. And so the work that we do is about reconnecting our community, bringing people together. And the approach that we take to homelessness in this country often fails to focus on this particular aspect, the fact that this profound and catastrophic loss of family and community has happened, and that we need to create for our neighbors the opportunity to heal from that, to have community around them, to have the support and the love that they need in order to move through the process of healing from all of the trauma that they have experienced. I think the other important thing to recognize is that homelessness itself is a profoundly traumatizing experience. So in addition to the fact that our neighbors have experienced all of this trauma throughout their lives, they also experience repeated trauma during their time on the streets and in shelters. They experience the disdain, the disgust, the anger, the vitriol of neighbors in the community. I have had neighbors share experiences with me where they have had their tents or campsites set on fire, where they've had firecrackers thrown into them. They have experienced people throwing, full, bottles of water or food out the car window at them and screaming hateful things at them, telling them that they're worthless, telling them to get a job, and just really treating them in absolutely hateful ways. And so that traumatizing experience, that feeling over and over again of being left out, of being lost and forgotten in your own community, really impacts each and every one of our neighbors who has experienced homelessness. So all of that understanding has really led us to this second foundational belief, which is that housing alone will never solve homelessness, but community will. When people learn about Community First Village, they're often so intrigued by the housing that we provide. And we're going to talk a lot about that housing during this webinar. We're going to talk about the fact that we have 3D printed homes, and we have tiny homes, and we have these beautiful park model RVs. But what we do at Community First Village has nothing to do with the four walls and a roof. It has everything to do with building community, with creating a space where relationships can form and grow, where we can truly be connected human to human, heart to heart. So when we talk about homelessness in this country, there's often this dialogue about what we need in order to solve homelessness is housing. And it is true, we absolutely need housing. Housing is necessary to solve homelessness, but it is insufficient. We need community. What we need is every one of us, every single member of the community to be part of the movement toward mitigating homelessness. How do we really move the needle? Well, it takes all of us. That is the work of Mobile Loaves and Fishes. And that leads us to the vision and the purpose of our organization. We exist to empower communities into a lifestyle of service with the homeless, not for them, not to them, but with them. So with is one of the most important words in our vision statement. But the other word that is really important is lifestyle. We want to empower people into a lifestyle of service, not where they think about those who have experienced homelessness once or twice a month when they go volunteer, or, once a quarter when their company does a service project. We want them to have a lifestyle of service where they are connected to and committed to their neighbors who have experienced homelessness. They want to be in community with them. So when we do that successfully, when we empower communities into a lifestyle of service with the homeless, when we achieve that vision as an organization, that is when we're going to be successful in mitigating homelessness. We will not be able to move the needle unless we empower communities into a lifestyle of service with our neighbors. That is the work that we do day in and day out at Mobile Loaves and Fishes. So just a bit about what we have managed to accomplish over the last 23 and a half years. We have served more than 6 million meals, and I'm going to tell you a bit about our food truck ministry, which was the foundation of Mobile Loaves and Fishes shortly. We've empowered more than 20,000 volunteers into a lifestyle of service. Volunteers from the beginning of our organization have been vital. They have been a lifeline for everything that we do. We have about 350 homes today. We are growing in our 51-acre master planned community, and I'm going to tell you about the expansion that's to come and the growth that we will experience in the years ahead as we continue to move forward in empowering communities into a lifestyle of service and really building this movement that is Community First Village. And then over the last several years, our neighbors have earned more than $3 million in dignified income through a variety of programs that we have on site at Community First Village. And I'm going to take you through and explain more about that later in the webinar. So there are really 3 aspects of the work that we do at Community First Village. We have our Mobile Loaves and Fishes food trucks, we have Community First Village, and then we have our Community Works programs. So let's start by diving in and talking about our food trucks and what those are all about. So Mobile Loaves and Fishes started 23 and a half years ago in the very simplest way. It started with 5 guys who came together and decided that they wanted to feed their neighbors. And they went out in a green minivan with sandwiches and just a heart for service, a heart to connect with their neighbors who were experiencing homelessness. They had no idea on that first night out on the streets in September 1998 what Mobile Loaves and Fishes would become. They just knew that they were called to serve their neighbors, that they wanted to connect with people who had experienced homelessness. Our founder, Alan Graham, is a serial entrepreneur. He had been a commercial real estate developer. And he pretty quickly, after that first night out on the streets, got a vision of a food truck, a catering truck, to take food from those that had abundance to those that lacked abundance. And so you see on the screen, Mobile Loaves and Fishes food truck. And there are 10 of these food trucks in Austin, Texas today, and a number in cities across the country that have followed in the footsteps of this model, where they are taking those trucks out each night and connecting with their neighbors who are experiencing homelessness. We always say that what we do on this food truck has absolutely nothing to do with the food. It has nothing to do with the food. It has everything to do with the relationships that are going to be formed between the volunteers who are serving and the neighbors who are being served, and the opportunity for those relationships to be forged on each night that those trucks are out there. The way that the truck is designed, you can see here, the truck side opens up, and the person that's serving and the person that is being served are connected, right? There is that human to human, heart to heart connection. And these trucks are out on the streets of Austin every night of the week. When you go onto the Mobile Loaves and Fishes website, at the very top, there's a link that says find a truck. When you click on that, it shows you all the different places that the food trucks are going on that particular day. And so our neighbors that are out on the streets, they learn about the truck stops because they themselves go to that website, or one of the organizations that they are connected with, maybe the shelter that they're staying at, or another place that they're visiting and getting case management services, might share with them, hey, the food truck is going to be here today. Our goal is to be out there connecting human to human, heart to heart. And what has happened on that food truck is really what has led us to the point of creating Community First Village. That food truck taught us what we needed to know in order to create Community First Village. It's where those relationships were formed and where we were able to really learn about homelessness directly from the people who have experienced it. They have shared their stories, they have shared their struggles, they have shared their desires for home and community with us, and that created the fuel that eventually became Community First Village. So I'm going to share with you a bit about Community First Village and this beautiful place that we have created. First of all, the average age of the folks that live here today is 56 years old. And we are just shy of 400 neighbors that call Community First Village home today. And we are on a path on our first 2 phases to have about 550 folks call Community First Village home. And I'll talk more in a moment about the expansion. But on the current footprint, we have an average age of 56 years old, an average length of time on the street of over 9 years. We focus on people who have experienced chronic homelessness. And that definition, as defined by HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, is that you have experienced homelessness for at least a year, or you've experienced multiple episodes of homelessness over a 3-year period that equal a year. And in our case, you can see that based on that average, we tend to focus on the people who have been out there for the longest period of time. But everyone who lives at Community First Village has been homeless at least a year. And again, the average length of time on the streets is 9+ years. We have a number of folks that experience 20, 30, and even 40+ years of homelessness. So you can imagine the trauma and the suffering that they have endured during that time. 65% of the neighbors that call Community First Village home have 2 or more chronic health conditions. So there are a lot of struggles. You can just see in this photo, people that are in wheelchairs, people that have had amputations, and every physical health ailment that you can imagine: congestive heart failure, cancer, diabetes. Our neighbors are managing a tremendous amount of struggle when it comes to both their physical and their mental health. And so creating a supportive community with the wraparound support services that meet those needs is so important to our model. And then the average age of death at Community First Village is just under 60 years old. And when you look at the numbers nationally, people that have experienced chronic homelessness typically die about 12 years earlier than the average population. The lack of access to healthcare and the variety of traumas that they've experienced in their life leads to an earlier death. And so our goal is to provide a place of dignity, a place of compassion and caring for our neighbors so that they can settle into community, they can experience being fully and wholly known and fully and wholly loved. And they can also experience the dignity of work if that is something that they're able to do based on their physical and mental health, and provides the opportunity for them to be purposeful during their time living at Community First Village. It's also important to note that Community First Village is intended to be permanent housing. So neighbors, when they move in, have the opportunity to live here for the rest of their life if they so choose. And that is the design. This is not a temporary stop on the way to a permanent home. This is intended to be the permanent home. Obviously, our neighbors, it is up to their choice. If they want to move on at some point, they are more than welcome. We will support that and encourage that. But this is designed to be permanent housing that is intensely supportive, with community wrapped around you, with services on site to be able to help you to meet the needs that you have. So I wanted to show a few aerial views just to kind of give you a sense of the scope of Community First Village. So we have 2 phases. So you'll see on this side of the screen, this is phase 1 of Community First Village on the left side of your screen, and that's fully built out. This is phase 2, and that is still under construction. And actually, since this aerial photo was taken, there are many more homes that have been included on this phase. And so if you look, this is actually an aerial view of just phase 1 with a bit of phase 2 in the background. But it shows the model that includes both tiny homes and RVs, park model RVs, and 3D printed homes as the housing types. And I'll show you photos of each of those to just give you a better sense. You can also see our farm right here in the center. This is called Unity Hall, which is a gathering space. It's also where our offices are located. Just give you kind of a sense of the scope of the village. This is a view, a more recent view of phase 2, and you can see still under construction, but it is coming along beautifully. You have the RV side of the property and then the tiny home side of the property here. You'll notice this building under construction, hopefully where you can see my mouse, is called the living room, and that will open in November of this year. And actually, I just got a tour of it, and so this was from a few months ago. The building is almost complete. It will open in November. We're in the finishing touches stage of opening that 9,000 square foot building, which will provide gathering space for our neighbors. So a quick breakdown of what you just saw in pictures. So there are going to be 4 phases of Community First Village. Phase 1 is 27 acres, 225 homes. That phase is complete. We have had neighbors living in that phase for 6.5 years, and it is a beautiful space. Phase 2, which is directly adjacent, is 24 additional acres. So that footprint of phases 1 and 2 is 51 acres combined. Phase 2 will have 310 homes when it is complete, and construction is still underway. We've actually finished over 200 of those homes, and construction will be complete next year. We hope by the end of the first quarter of next year that will be completed with the construction of phase 2. We have acquired 2 additional phases. So phase 3, which is directly across the street from our existing village, is 51 additional acres that will have 650 homes, and we'll be breaking ground on that phase in October of this year. And then phase 4 is 76 additional acres, which is about 15 minutes away from where Community First Village is now. That will add another 650 homes in the Community First Village model. Plus, we're partnering with a local organization called Foundation Communities. That's an affordable housing developer, and they will be building a 100-unit permanent supportive housing apartment complex on that property as well. So that 76 acres will have 750 homes and a really beautiful and robust supportive community. And again, that will also break ground in October of 2022. We are currently in the site development process for both phase 3 and phase 4. So all told, when these 4 phases are complete, we'll have over 1,900 homes. We expect to have over 2,000 neighbors that will live across these 4 phases. So just to give you a sense of the different types of homes, we have tiny homes at Community First Village, and we partner with local home builders to build these homes. Local architects, some of the most gifted architects in Austin, have designed these homes. There are a variety of different designs. You can see they're very beautiful, very eclectic. One of the things that I love that we've done is really engage our neighbors in the design process. And so we've worked with our neighbors when we were working on phase 2, where we selected certain neighbors who were seed neighbors. They were going to move from phase 1 to phase 2 and help to grow that new phase. And they were able to participate in a design build process. So they got to work directly with the architect designing the home, which, as we all know, the opportunity to design your own home and be part of building your own home is something that's typically only available to the wealthiest folks, right? And to be able to bring that opportunity to our neighbors who have experienced homelessness, to help them be part of the design process, was so important to our model. My dear friend Jesse, who was one of our seed neighbors, in his design, one of the things that I loved is he wanted his recliner to be a central feature in his home. It is his safe resting place. It is the seat that he loves the most. And so his recliner is prominently featured in the home, and he wanted it to where he could see out the door and onto his porch from his recliner so that he could welcome people into his home. It's not unusual when I'm out doing a tour that I'll see Jesse in his home. He'll be sitting in that recliner. He can see out his porch, and he waves us in and invites us to come in. He loves to show his home, and he loves to tell people about being part of that design build process. He's also very proud. He has in his home a framed picture of an architectural magazine that he was featured on the front of with his home, with a story about this design build, and him talking with such pride about the opportunity to be part of that process. So we also have these park model RV homes, which you see featured here. These are 399 square feet homes. They're very, very beautiful. And I've got another view. This street, our neighbors have called it Happy Street because of the bright and vibrant colors. And also because many of these neighbors love to sit out on their front porches. They talk, they sing, they just have a great time. They will dance in the street. This is just a beautiful part of the village and a great community that our neighbors have created on the street that they call Happy Street. This shows kind of the front view of another one of our park model RVs. This is a handicap accessible unit. You can see with the ramp here. And so we have a number of those units for our neighbors that have mobility impairments. This is our 3D printed welcome center. And so Mobile Loaves and Fishes has partnered with Icon, which is an Austin-based company that does 3D printing of homes and many other things. If you are interested in learning more about Icon, you can find them online. Some great stories about the work that they're doing, not only in creating homes for people who have experienced homelessness and others who are low income, but also the work that they're doing. They have a partnership with NASA that's really exciting. They have a partnership with the US government. They're doing things with the military. They're helping print barracks. There's a lot of interesting uses for 3D printing. Mobile Loaves and Fishes partnered with Icon, and this in front of you, this is our welcome center, and this was the second home that Icon ever 3D printed. And this is a space where we welcome people into the village, where all of our volunteers are greeted and check in, all of our tours begin, and it's a really beautiful space. After we printed this, we continued in our partnership with Icon, and we printed a series of 6 homes for our neighbors. And so this shows 3 of those 3D printed homes that we have worked with Icon to create, and they are beautiful. And this is a great partnership and a great opportunity for us to be able to test this new technology and to get the lived experience from our neighbors. So our neighbor Tim, who lives in this house right here with the yellow accents, is the first person in this country to live in a 3D printed home. Something that he's very proud of, something that's been featured in a number of magazines and national publications. And he's loved telling the story about being part of the process of partnering with Icon to create this home. And he has such pride in showing off this beautiful space that he is privileged to call home. I'm going to transition into talking about our community works programs. So one of the things that is really important to Community First Village is our belief in the dignity of work and the desire for our neighbors to be able to rediscover their God-given gifts and abilities to do purposeful work. And so we created our community works programs with the idea that our neighbors want to work. One of the biggest stereotypes and misconceptions of people who've experienced homelessness is that they're lazy, and nothing could be further from the truth. They want to work and they want to be purposeful. And so we have created a variety of ways for our neighbors to earn a dignified income right here at Community First Village. When you think about a 51-acre community that we have today, there are a lot of opportunities to work. We have micro enterprise programs where our neighbors are creating products, and I'm going to take you through explaining that part of the model. But then we also have opportunities that are part of the upkeep of the village, things like property beautification and janitorial work, hospitality for the events and things that we host at the village. Those are all opportunities for our neighbors to work and earn a dignified income. In addition, we have many volunteers that participate in the life of the village every single week as part of that vision to empower communities into a lifestyle of service with the homeless. And so every time a volunteer comes out here, we want them to have the opportunity to be connected with a neighbor. But one of the most powerful things that we do is we have volunteers that are led by neighbors. So neighbors are earning a dignified income, leading volunteers. They are teaching them what they are going to do, whether that's being a part of a property beautification team, whether that's helping to set up a new home that a neighbor is going to move into, whether that's working as part of our organic farming program, Genesis Gardens. Our neighbors are leading the volunteers when they come out here. And that is a powerful and stereotype busting experience for those volunteers because they experience the leadership of people who have experienced homelessness. And it shows them the incredible and resilient human beings they are and the leadership that they exhibit. So I'll start by talking about our Community Works Entrepreneur Hub. This is a beautiful building that houses our art house program. And this building has been such an asset to Community First Village. We had an art house space prior to this building opening in September of 2020. That was really, we were outgrowing it because of the growth of the village. And so we built this new space. And the Entrepreneur Hub really is a powerful space, particularly for our art house program. In our art house program, our neighbors have the opportunity to create fine art, pottery, ceramics, they make jewelry. There are a lot of different opportunities to engage and to use their gifts and talents to create really beautiful works of art. We have a market on site where those items are sold. And so 6 days a week, that market is open. It features the beautiful products that are created in the art house, and those that are visiting have the opportunity to purchase them. We also have an online store where folks can purchase all of the beautiful things that our neighbors are creating. So if you visit the MLF website at the very top, there's a link that says shop. You can click on that and you can purchase a work of fine art by one of our neighbors, a fine art print. You could purchase a piece of jewelry, an ornament that a neighbor has made in our ceramics program. There are many different products that our neighbors have created. One of the things that I love that they introduced last year are ceramic tiny homes, and those have been a huge hit, obviously in line with the model of Community First Village. But again, this is a place of providing our neighbors the opportunity to experience the dignity of work, to find something that they love and that they're good at, and also to be partnered with volunteers. So we have gifted artists that come in and volunteer in this program, and they're able to build these beautiful and special relationships and teach one another about art. They're able to learn from each other and really just create incredibly beautiful things. And behind me in my office, you can see a number of works of art, all created by our neighbors at Community First Village. We also have a culinary program. A lot of our neighbors come from a culinary background and had that type of work experience in their life. And so we have a community grill that's open several days a week on site at the village that serves both everyone who lives and works here, as well as the volunteers that are on site. Many of the events that we host, we're also catering those with our culinary program. So Susan mentioned coming to our symposium and coming to events here on site. And when you attend one of those events, typically the food is made by the people who live here, and they're earning a dignified income for doing that. And they are phenomenal cooks and make some of the most delicious food that you will ever taste in your life. We have a community car care program where our neighbors, they do oil changes, car washes, state inspections, car detailing, utilizing, again, gifts and talents that they have and work experience that they have from their past. We also have our Genesis Gardens program, which is a full organic farm that we have on site. All of the food that we grow at Community First Village is available for free to our neighbors. Every Saturday morning, we do a farmer's market, and our neighbors are able to come and get the harvest from this garden program. In addition to all of the things that we're growing, we also have many chickens who are laying eggs every single day. And so organic eggs are part of that farmer's market every single week. And that's probably one of the hottest items at the farmer's market, is being able to get those fresh eggs that were just laid this week by the chickens on site at Community First Village. And that's one of the great joys of the village, is both the chickens and the ducks that neighbors love to visit and hang out with. In addition to what you see on the screen with our farming program, we also have an aquaponics and hydroponics facility on site that opened last year. And it is an incredible facility where we're able to grow many things that wouldn't typically grow in our Austin, Texas climate. And that has provided the opportunity to really increase the production of food at Community First Village, provide even more food to our neighbors and even more volunteer opportunities for all of those folks who want to come and work alongside of us. I'm going to walk you through quickly some of the amenities of Community First Village, some of the things that you experience when you come on site. One of the newest and one of my favorites is the Gus Bus. You see the word goodness everywhere at Community First Village. So it's the Goodness Bus, or GUS for short. And we have GUS bus stops all around the village. And this is neighbor transportation for neighbors, provided by neighbors. So we have neighbors who are earning a dignified income to drive the GUS bus, this 8-seater golf cart, around the village. And as you can imagine, a 51-acre campus is a lot of ground to cover. And so throughout the day, the GUS bus is running and taking people to the stops that are all around the village. So if someone wants to go and work at the art house, which is in the Entrepreneur Hub, and they live on the other side of the village, they can hop on the GUS bus and get a ride rather than having to walk all the way across the 51 acres in the hot Texas sun. We have the community cinema and amphitheater. So we have an outdoor movie theater here at Community First Village, and we host movies that are open to the entire community, that are open to the public. And that's a great way for us to bring folks into the village and give them the opportunity to learn about the work that we do. This is also a space where we host a lot of neighbor events. In fact, this past Friday, we had the Cruel summer event where we had water balloon fights and water guns and all kinds of fun and activities with our neighbors, and just had a great time gathering in the amphitheater space. If you're ever in Austin, Texas, I would love to have you come join us for a movie under the stars. It's an unforgettable experience. We also have on site our community inn. Susan mentioned at the beginning that when she visited in February of 2020, she actually stayed here on site in the community inn. This is our on-site tiny home bed and breakfast. And so we have a variety of different units. We have tiny homes and RVs that people are able to stay in, people coming from all over the world. So we have folks that are coming into Austin for Austin City Limits Music Festival or for South by Southwest, and they're able to stay here on site at the community inn, which is such a gift. It's an opportunity for our neighbors, again, to earn a dignified income. All of the housekeeping and the landscaping is done by our neighbors who call Community First Village home. And it gives people that opportunity to be more deeply empowered into a lifestyle of service with our neighbors by staying here on site at the village. This is Unity Hall. This is our headquarters for Mobile Loaves and Fishes. We also have a huge multi-purpose space in this building that hosts lots of fun events. Every single week we host an open mic night. We have neighbor meals and gatherings, game nights, all kinds of things that happen in this building, and it's a great gathering space and place to bring people together. We have this great park, and all throughout the village there are beautiful outdoor spaces. This is called Kings Park, a beautiful outdoor space that has cornhole and some seating areas, a place for neighbors to gather and spend time together in community. We also have an awesome dog park called Jake's Place. We strongly encourage our neighbors to have pets, particularly dogs. And we have great partnerships with a local vet that comes out and provides services to our neighbors. But this is a great place for our neighbors to bring their dogs, to hang out, to run around and have a great time frolicking with other dogs. We also have on phase 2 a pond and a green space. I see neighbors fishing down there. I see neighbors walking around the pond. It's a very peaceful area and a great, just a great space for reflection and to get peace and quiet out here in the beautiful village. A few other amenities to mention. The community market is open 6 days a week. That is an on-site convenience store for our neighbors that provides a lot of the basics. So if you need to grab a loaf of bread or some milk or a snack, you're able to do that right here on site in the community market. It's also where we feature all of the products that our neighbors are making in our micro enterprise programs. So if you come and visit the village and you want to buy a piece of jewelry or a piece of art that a neighbor has made, an ornament, another piece of ceramics or pottery that a neighbor has made in one of our programs, the community market is the on-site place that you can do that. I also mentioned earlier the 9,000 square foot living room that's going to open in November. That is going to be another great space of gathering and community building for our folks. And one of the things we're most excited about is just a great indoor space to gather. There's going to be a coffee bar, neighbors coming in every morning to have coffee together. We'll have pool tables, foosball tables, that kind of thing, and just a place for neighbors to really spend time together in community. We also have a hair care studio that's on site. We have volunteers that come typically once or twice a month and provide free haircuts to our neighbors. We've had manicurists come in and do manicures for our neighbors as well. Another great way for us to engage volunteers and to provide something that our neighbors both need and enjoy. We have a library on site where neighbors can check out books and DVDs. And that's staffed by volunteers, and it's another great space. It has a rooftop deck, so you can check out your book and then go sit up on the rooftop deck and read. And it's a really fun space. We also have the community table, which is a huge structure, covered structure where we're able to gather for a lot of neighbor meals and gatherings outside. It's a really awesome space. We host lots of dinners there, and we have a volunteer group that comes in every Thursday to serve dinner, and that always happens at the community table. It's a great, great space for gathering. And then in addition, so many other outdoor spaces, hammocks, swings around the property, just places where people can come together to connect with each other and relax. I want to tell you a bit about our partners and our on-site services that we offer. This picture that you see here is of one of our partners that is called Home Street Music, and they come and do jam sessions with our neighbors. They, just like you see there, they get in a circle. They are playing the keyboard, the guitar, the percussion. There's all kinds of great music being created, and that's just one of the many amazing partnerships that we have at Community First Village. In addition to that, we have both physical and mental health care services provided on site for our neighbors. We have a community health paramedic that is stationed here full time. And so she's able to connect with neighbors and provide for physical health care needs, help them to get connected to the healthcare system. We also have a full-time staff member who's a healthcare navigator who works closely with our community health paramedic and our other on-site healthcare partners to be able to help our neighbors navigate the complexities of the healthcare system. We have addiction recovery support partners on site. They host events throughout the week. They host meetings and opportunities for our neighbors to participate in sober, fun activities together with their fellow neighbors who are in recovery or on the journey toward recovery. We have services for aging in place. As we talked about earlier, the average age of our neighbors is 56 years old. And so we want to help our neighbors age in place and provide services to make that possible for them. And we also provide some financial services through one of our partners who provides financial education. They have a representative payee program where if we have a neighbor who needs someone to help them manage their finances, where they will ensure that they take care of paying their rent and paying their other bills, they are able to provide that service through this partnership that we have with an organization called Family Elder Care. We also have restorative justice services on site. We're able to help our neighbors connect in relationship with each other so that they can learn to work through any challenges and disagreements that they might have. Just like any neighborhood, there are disagreements. Neighbors may not get along at times. Someone's music is too loud. Someone's dog went to the bathroom and they didn't clean it up. We have all those kinds of normal challenges that any neighborhood has. And so we have these restorative justice services to help neighbors work through when there's a disagreement that they just can't quite figure out how to navigate themselves. We have counselors that come on site to provide counseling, and we are working toward a new program where coaches are going to come on site to provide life coaching to our neighbors. We have a variety of different ways that we provide spiritual support. I mentioned earlier a veterinary care partnership where we have a vet that comes every month to provide services to our neighbors, and so many more. Our goal is to have holistic wraparound services to meet the needs of our neighbors. So 3 rules of Community First Village. Rule number 1, you have to pay your rent and you have to pay it on time. Our rent ranges from about $350 to $450 a month. So it is very affordable. The average cost of a 1-bedroom in Austin, Texas right now is $1,750 a month. So our rent range of $350 to $450 a month is about as affordable as it can possibly get in this city. And we are very focused on really empowering our neighbors to pay their rent and pay it on time. And we have a really strong rent collection rate, and our neighbors do a great job of staying on top of that. Rule number 2 is you have to abide by civil law. We tell our neighbors we don't make civil law. We don't enforce civil law because we are not the police, but we are asking you to abide by it. And when there are cases where civil law has not been filed, we will engage with local law enforcement. And we have a strong relationship and partnership with the Travis County Sheriff's Department. And so when there's anything criminal that goes on, we will engage with them and have them take the lead on investigating that and helping us to mitigate any of those challenges we might face. And then rule number 3 is you must follow the rules of the community. So just like any place that you live, you would be under a lease agreement and you're going to have rules that you must follow. So there are rules for Community First Village that are articulated to our neighbors early in the move-in process and often throughout their time living here. And we're asking our neighbors to follow those rules and really just be part of creating a dignified and supportive community for everyone. We do a lot of different things to engage our neighbors. I mentioned open mic nights, karaoke that we do on site at the village. We recently had a barbecue cook-off. So lots of ways to engage neighbors in the life of the village. Many of the events that we do are the neighbors' ideas. This Cruel Beach Summer event that we had on Friday was a neighbor's idea. He worked on planning it and executing it and just did a really beautiful job bringing the community together. So again, our neighbors' voices are driving everything that we do at Community First Village. One of the secret sauces of Community First Village is our missionals. And so about 15% of the people that call Community First Village home have never experienced homelessness themselves, but they are called by their faith to live in community with our neighbors at Community First Village. These folks are some of the most incredible servant leaders and volunteers you'll ever meet. And they are intentional neighbors. They are there to connect human to human, heart to heart, to create relationships with our neighbors and just to be supportive of them as they are living out their days at Community First Village. And we absolutely could not do what we do at Community First without our missionals. You can learn a lot more about our missional program on our website. There's, in fact, a whole huge section that's dedicated to explaining the missional program. People go through a 9 to 12 month discernment process to ensure that they are prepared for and ready to come and make the commitment to call Community First Village home. And I am just so grateful for every one of them and for the ways that they engage and love our neighbors so beautifully. Now, before I wrap up, last thing I'm going to share is just about our replication model. So there are communities all across the country that are in various stages of replicating the community first village model. There are those that have built and opened villages. There are those that have broken ground and are under construction. There are those that are in the process of pursuing land, fundraising, building community support. And the way that we have approached this from the very beginning, as I mentioned, Community First Village opened 6.5 years ago, and genuinely, as soon as we opened, people started to come from all over the country to visit. And so we created a replication program to really help guide and shepherd people that are thinking about replicating this model. Mobile Loaves and Fishes does not go to other cities to create this village. We work with local leaders, and we want to empower and equip them to bring this model to life in their own community. And so over the last 6.5 years, we've had people come from 32 different states, plus Washington, D.C., 155 different cities across the United States and beyond, and over 475 participants that have come and participated in one of our replication offerings. And on our website, if you visit mlf.org/symposium, there's a form that you can fill out to indicate your interest if you'd like to participate in one of the quarterly symposia that we offer. All right, that brings us to Q&A, and I am grateful for the opportunity to share all of this with you, to tell you about Community First Village, and happy to answer any of the questions that you all have.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my goodness. You crammed a whole bunch of good information, great details, beautiful pictures in that presentation, and I'm sure people will want to go back and, stop it at a particular point, because we are recording this. And I know that there'll be some questions in the chat that Felipe will come back and ask. I know one of them is for me, is around like funding. How do you make this happen? How does this happen?
That is a great question. And so Community First Village, up until this day, has been completely privately funded. So all of the capital for everything that you saw in all of those pictures, for everything that we've done, has been privately funded. All 4 phases of land have been donated by private donors. So private donors have acquired that land and then donated it to Mobile Loaves and Fishes. And all of the capital to build all of the buildings, all of the homes, has all come from private sources. We are in the process right now. There has been an earmark of funds from the American Rescue Plan for phase 4 from Travis County. So that would be the very first time that we would have received any government funds, and that would be federal money flowing through Travis County. And we are in the process right now of working through the details and the contract. But up until this point, everything has been privately funded. I think that's one of the things that tends to intrigue people the most about this model, because so often the services and housing for people experiencing homelessness in most cities across the country comes from primarily government sources. I have worked for other homeless services organizations that are 70–80% government funded, and we are the opposite. 75% of our annual operating budget comes from philanthropic sources. It comes from the generosity of the community. The balance, that other 25%, comes from rent and some program income that comes from some of our programs.
Wow, thank you. That's remarkable. And these are individuals that are so moved by what you're doing that they're donating a little or a lot to make this happen.
Absolutely. We have the most generous donors. We have over 1,000 people that give every single month to Community First Village, and that ranges, from $5 or $10 a month to many hundreds of dollars a month. There's a real just diversity of the folks that support the work that we do. And again, that connects to the vision. We empower communities into a lifestyle of service. And so we have been building for the last 23.5 years this donor base, this list of supporters that love and believe in the work that we do, and they continue to invest in it.
Wow, thank you.
Amazing. So we have a lot of questions from the chat, and thank you, Egan, for asking all these questions. So I'm going to go ahead and start asking you some things, Amber. So one of the first questions that showed up at the beginning was, Ruth asked this question. In my county, the commissioners often state that the homeless are not local people. They are people who have moved here. And then she says, parenthesis, most of the non-homeless have moved here. What should the response be to commissioners who believe that building provisions like your village will just attract more people experiencing homelessness into the county looking for homes?
I love this question. Thank you for asking it. It's one of the most common questions that gets asked. So when you look at the requirements to live at Community First Village, in order to come and live here, you have to have been homeless for at least a year in Travis County. So that's one of the biggest ways that we address this. First of all, that belief that the commissioners have in your community and that lots of politicians have in Austin is one of the greatest urban myths of homelessness. There's this belief that, if you build it, they will come. And what I encourage is look at the data. Typically the data from your homeless count will tell you what percentage. In Austin, it's 75 to 80% of the people who experience homelessness. This is where they live. This is where they're from. They didn't come flock here from somewhere else. But it's one of the great tools in the NIMBY toolbox to try to stop projects like Community First Village from happening, because we're creating this fear that we're going to become this homeless, that we're going to attract all the homeless people from all over the world. Well, in order to live at Community First Village, if you were to move from another city, you would have to have been homeless in Austin for at least a year. And so we overcome that objection just by sharing that. And quite frankly, it's such an urban myth. And so we also use the data from Austin to share that the data just doesn't support that people move, from all these places. People typically are homeless in cities that they've lived in for quite some time.
Thank you for that. And do you by any chance know about what's the percentage? Let me see, where is this? About what percentage of homeless people or people experiencing homelessness in Austin are you able to assist?
That's a great question. So right now we estimate that, well, the numbers estimated by the Ending Community Homelessness Coalition that they have on their website say that there are somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 people experiencing homelessness right now in our city on any given day. And we estimate that about 1,500 to 2,000 of those folks are experiencing chronic homelessness. And that's the population that we focus on. So one of the most popular questions that we get right now is, you're going to build 1,400 more homes. Are you going to solve homelessness, chronic homelessness in Austin? And the answer is absolutely not. Because if we believe, as we do, that the single greatest cause of homelessness is the profound catastrophic loss of family, we are not, there's nothing that's happening that's stopping people from becoming homeless. And so we are continuing to, we tell people we're at the bottom of the river pulling people out that have experienced at least a year of homelessness, but more people continue to become homeless. We're talking about, an economic recession. We're still dealing with the impacts of the pandemic and the financial implications that has had. And so people are going to continue to experience homelessness. And at Mobile Loaves and Fishes, we're going to build community. We are going to continue to grow Community First Village to meet the needs that exist in our city. That's the position that we have.
Perfect. Are you concerned with getting too big?
That's a great question. I saw that one come through. So one of the things that we are doing in the design of phases 3 and 4 is really intentionally designing around what we call neighborhoods of knowingness, because there was a day where we knew every single neighbor that called Community First Village home. Well, as I told you at the beginning, we're just shy of 400 people that live here today. So I don't know every single neighbor, and I don't know all of their names. But what I do know is that they are known and loved here, that they have neighbors and volunteers and staff members and missionals who know them and care for them. And so really what we're trying to do is create these neighborhoods of knowingness, really these pocket neighborhoods where you have maybe 40 or 50 homes, and we're really intentionally bringing those folks together to create that neighborhood feeling. And it's not altogether different when you think about a large master planned neighborhood, maybe a neighborhood like some of you live in. You might have a cul-de-sac and you get together with the people in your cul-de-sac and you know those folks really well, but you don't know everybody that lives in your neighborhood that has hundreds of homes. So our goal is to create pocket communities within the larger village, and then to continue to engage neighbors, to host events that create opportunities for people to meet each other, to get to know each other. We host town hall meetings and other listening sessions where we can hear from neighbors. And so we're not concerned about becoming too big. We just want to be strategic in how we grow so that we can make sure that our neighbors continue to experience the strength of our community.
Beautiful. Now, have you had NIMBYism, not in my backyard challenges? And if so, how were those challenges managed? Like, how were those addressed?
That's a great question. So where we are today, the land that we are on today, was the result of many years of NIMBY struggle. There were a number of other pieces of land in Austin that the Not in My Backyard crowd fiercely fought against Community First Village. And so we have experienced NIMBY for many, many years. In the state of Texas, there is no zoning outside the municipal boundary. And so Community First Village, all 4 phases are in the county. We share property lines with the city, but we are in the county. And so when it comes to Not in My Backyard, one of the strongest tools in their toolbox is zoning. And so if a zoning change needs to be made, that's when Not in My Backyard comes and fights. They fight against the zoning change, and then that prevents these types of projects from happening. We were able to overcome that here because of the fact that there's not zoning outside the municipal boundary. We have other organizations across the country that we worked with that have approached this in a variety of different ways. Some have purchased land that's already zoned appropriately for what they're building. There are a number of ways to get around it, but ultimately, Not in My Backyard is a well-oiled machine. And if you do some research about it, there are tools and tactics that are used. They are used here in Austin, Texas, and they are used in cities across the country to create fear in order to stop not just projects like Community First Village, but shopping centers and strip malls and all kinds of things that people think are undesirable or are going to create too much traffic or are going to impact the property value of their home. So we're going to be fighting that battle. All of us that do work with people experiencing homelessness for the rest of our lives. We just have to be smart and strategic about how we fight that battle and really how we engage in relationship with the people that have those fears and feelings. When I experience people that have some of that thinking, I know that part of my goal is to engage them in relationship, to invite them to the village, and to help to try to understand where they're coming from, and then help them to see what we've created and the hope that this model creates for how we can mitigate homelessness in our community.
And, so kind of going back to the zoning part. So because you are outside of the city limits and you have this county zoning, there's no issues for you in how you build things or, what kind of code you have to apply, or have you had to negotiate changes in land use for zoning or building standards, or is it because of county things, it's a little bit more liberal in that sense?
It's a little bit more liberal in that sense. And so we haven't had the same kinds of challenges that I know other communities have encountered, particularly around tiny homes.
Perfect. And so now, do all homes have AC?
Yes. So at the beginning, neighbors had the option. Now every home that we build has it. We actually do still have a few neighbors that don't, and it's their choice. They did not want it. But moving forward, every single home has air conditioning.
Do you have a long wait list for neighbors to get a home?
Right now, there are about 160 people on the wait list, and typically we're moving in, anywhere between 10 and 15 people a month. And so we're working on that wait list constantly.
And all homes have running water and toilets, right?
So our tiny homes that are 200 square feet or less do not have plumbing in them, and they are connected to one of the 12 laundry, restroom, shower facilities and outdoor kitchens that are positioned around the property. And so they have the way that we describe it is they have their bedroom, and then the amenities are, closely situated around them. So you have your laundry, restroom, shower facility and your outdoor kitchen that are close by. All of them are fully electric. They have coffee pot, microwave, crock pot, refrigerator, all in the home. And then they have this large outdoor kitchen to be able to cook. And then the laundry, restroom, shower facilities that are positioned close by.
Thank you. And so another question that kind of came up about behaviors and stuff, there was a person that says that people on the streets who do normally not like to follow rules, how do they adapt to following rules at Community First Village?
It's a beautiful process, and we really think about it in terms of people settling into community and settling into the expectations that exist at Community First Village. It is not nirvana here. It's not utopia. There are struggles every day and challenges that we have with mental health, with addiction, but we are addressing those challenges head on. If a neighbor is struggling, you can rest assured that a conversation is going to happen. We're going to invite them in to figure out what's going on, how we can best support them. And we do that through our staff and missionals and volunteers, but also through this network of on-site partners that we have that provide physical and mental health care, that provide all of those services that we talked about.
Great. And so do residents get to pick the type of home that they want, or is the first available, first come, first serve kind of thing? Or no,
they get to pick the type of home that they want. So the dignity of choice is a big deal at Community First Village. So we will show them a number of home types. The rent structure is different depending on the home type that you choose. So that may factor into their decision. Often the location where the home is on the property. I have a neighbor who's a great friend of mine, and she chose her home because she always wanted to live in a yellow house. And so one of the homes that she saw was yellow, and she loved it, and she chose it because she always wanted her whole life to have a yellow house.
That's beautiful. So is Community First Village well known in Austin then, within Austin?
Yes, one of the things that we love to share is that our mayor often refers to Community First Village as the most talked about neighborhood in Austin. And we are, we've built strong relationships and a strong reputation in our community over the last 23 and a half years. We are constantly inviting people to the village. I mentioned that we host these movie nights. We host a huge holiday event. So we're inviting people into the life of the village so that they can learn about and understand the work that we're doing, and so that they can want to be empowered into a lifestyle of service to help support the work that we do going forward.
Wonderful. And last question, because we're right on time actually, is so as you were saying, you train people so that those people can hopefully replicate this project in their own community. So is this possible to replicate easily in either here in the US or outside of the US? Do you know?
I love this question. One of the things people sometimes ask me, a different version of this is like, is there a playbook? And the reality is that this is not easy to replicate. We are serving a complex population with a lot of needs, with a lot of struggles. And so it will not be easy to do. It will not be easy to replicate the model. It will not be easy every day to deal with the different struggles and challenges. But when you are called to this work, when you are called to compassion for your neighbors, you can do it. You can endure anything. And I have loved watching our partners all across the country. I love getting updates for them. One of them in Midland, Texas, is having their groundbreaking this week. And when I got the email last week, I was in tears because I've watched this process. I've watched them go through all of the challenges of acquiring the land, of fundraising, of building the village. And now they're at the point of breaking ground, and they're going to start moving neighbors, or actually not groundbreaking. It's a ribbon cutting. They're moving people into the village. And so I'm just so proud of the work that they've done. They're called the Field's Edge in Midland, Texas. And we've been working with them for 5+ years on this journey. And to see them get to this point is so thrilling. Our partners in Tulare, California are breaking ground later this year. The organization there is called Salt and Light. And we're so proud of the work that they've done. And there are so many more all across the country. And it can be done. And it is best done by organizations that have been committed to this work, that have built relationships with people experiencing homelessness in their community, and that are building that strong community support to be able to endure whatever challenges come up, the not in my backyard challenges, all of the struggles with construction and timelines and supply chain and all of the things that are going to stand in the way. But I think what we've done is proven this is possible. You can create a master planned community for the chronically homeless, for people who are vulnerable and who have often been left out, outcast, lost, and forgotten. Those are the neighbors that we serve, and we've built a beautiful and supportive community for them.
Wow. 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 Thank you. Everything you said is just so heart-centered, right? That village is heart-centered. The work you do is heart-centered. The people you serve are coming, all those wraparound services and the support, you're providing a container for them to have a life of dignity and love and support that they have not had for a very long time.
Yes.
So,
thank you
yeah,
so much for having me.
So grateful for what you're doing, for the example that you've set, the ground that you've broken, the training that you're doing, the replication that is happening in various forms because of the result of your hard work and your hard work. So grateful to have you on this planet doing this work. And thank Alan for his vision, how it came about. And I'm just so grateful to have visited that village and so moved by what you do. Thank you.
Yeah. And we want to thank everybody else that has joined us on this webinar. Thank you for staying with us and asking all the questions. This recording will be available on our YouTube channel. We also will be premiering it on our Facebook page for Friday morning if you want to watch it and maybe participate and have a conversation live on Facebook. And we'll be posting all those links. And if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, sign up in our website, charterforcompassion.org. And there will be more information about the upcoming webinar episodes that are happening until September. So thank you everyone for joining us, and hopefully you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.